there was times where my mother was in such a height of mania and I was like 11 years old. I hit my mother with a frying pan. It was like, who does that? Leaves a child in that situation. It just got that much. I was pushed to the brink. And then ever since in my life, I've just been carers for people. I put I put myself last all the time. I'm starting to change that now.
None of us become who we're meant to be alone. Every story has people who helped write it. So let's talk about them. Welcome to the Mentor Sessions.
With Denis, and we'll get to hear his story a little bit, and we'll ask him questions about those in his life that have helped him through his trials and struggles, and his what got him to where he's at today. Denis, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit yourself?
Okay, so I'm 58 years old. I live in Melbourne, Australia. My childhood was pretty traumatic. I had a very bad bipolar mother who basically I only saw in her heights of mania. Alcoholic, well, semi-alcoholic father, very much a compulsive gambler. So as a child, I couldn't rely on them. I basically, even though I have siblings and with my I had borderline personality disorder, which was diagnosed about 8 years ago, which makes sense when I look back. But so as a child, I can't picture my siblings. I just picture me and my mother. That's the only memories I have. Like there was times where my mother was in such a height of mania and I was like 11 years old. I hit my mother with a frying pan. It was like, I couldn't, it was like, who does that? Leaves a child in that situation. It just got that much. I was pushed to the brink. And then ever since in my life, I've just been carers for people. I put myself last all the time. I'm starting to change that now. So basically, as a child, so that was my childhood. When I came out as gay at about 17 years old, but because of all the anger inside of me, because I didn't get my childhood, it was basically used as ammunition. It's like, stuff you, I'm gay. So I didn't really come out in the sense of the word, and I'm not sure even today whether I accept it all. There was also some sexual abuse, but unfortunately with my borderline, my memory just wipes. So now when I say it and I can't remember it, and especially borderline, people say we're after attention. I try and think, oh, did I just make it up for a story? But it's been a story all my life, but I've just forgotten the parts now. So that makes it difficult. So after just shortly before leaving home, I ended up a compulsive gambler like my father. And they threw me out of home. I ended up living with my grandmother and I was just angry. So I ended up stealing off my grandmother. She forgave me. It was her siblings that didn't. And it ended up that I spent a month in jail. And believe it or not, this is my father for you. When I got out of jail, he wanted to take me to the RSL club to go gamble. It's like, okay. Then shortly after that, I just moved away. I moved into Sydney, into the gay scene. In those days, it was very drug orientated, people partying and stuff like that. I got in a bit of that. Never really got addicted, which I don't understand. I do have an addictive personality, so I don't understand why I never got addicted to drugs. So shortly after that, I would say, now that I look at it, I ran away. I ended up going on a holiday in Canada and met someone and didn't come back. Well, I eventually came back, so I ended up getting married. It wasn't right for me. What I've learned throughout the years is I am attracting what I grew up with. So I attract a lot of mentally ill people. And though I can handle it in small bits, it gets too much for me. But so that marriage didn't last because that person's very bad bipolar as well. I had a lot of this success while I was overseas in employment and stuff. Stuff didn't really get to me. And then within 3 years after being in Canada, signs of what was going on in my head started to come up more prevalently. Though if I remember, like, it was certainly there in my 20s because I always thought, well, people can't understanding what I'm saying. And when they didn't understand, I'd get upset and then I'd try to fix it and it would just get worse. So I traveled from Canada to New Zealand and I swore that I would never come back to Australia. But what I learned from that journey is, though I was running away, I needed that because I learned a lot of things while I was away. And now back in Australia, I know that I need to be here. So when I was diagnosed with borderline, it sort of made sense. With borderline personality disorder, it's very much, we just feel things a lot deeper and harder and stuff like that. So, but the issue with me is because I ran my life was around labels. I had bipolar mother, alcoholic father, schizophrenic auntie, bipolar grandmother. My sister ended up bipolar. And so without a label, I didn't understand. But even when I have the borderline label, I'm in the in a minority, I don't have the depression. Whether it's a defense mechanism within inside me that I don't go too far there because I'm scared that I'd end up like my mother, I don't know. But yeah, I suppose I have a lot of insight and it's helped me along.
Sorry, I was unmuting my
It's
mic after listening to all that and trying to take it all in. Um, Growing up, you talked about how I the only word I can really use is just how unstable it was at home. You know, with your mom and her mania, uh, your dad and his addictions, gambling, um, alcoholism. Who, and maybe this might be a hard question for you to answer because you all the stuff and the trauma, trying to block that trauma out. But who did you rely on to like kind of help raise you since you weren't getting that kind of support at home?
myself. I learned to self-soothe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just me. Even though I had, as I said, I have siblings. I have 2 older brothers and a younger sister. My sister became, so basically in the female side of my family, until my sister had children, the mental illness was in the bipolar was in the women's side of my family until she had kids. But they're the type of siblings that they don't talk about their problems. So when I started talking, they didn't want to know me. I'm always been an open book. They never believed. They always said, "No, you weren't sexually assaulted" and stuff like this. But I know it happened. Um, there were situations that, yeah, I still have a few flashbacks, and it doesn't make sense that a child would push themselves against a man in a sexual manner at the age of 5. You don't get that from nowhere. So yeah, it's like, but I always thought it was my father, but because of my memory, I now say I don't know. I just say I know it happened because out of respect for him, I really don't know. But yeah. But yeah, it was just hard. I just learned to self-soothe it. There wasn't anybody for me. And one of the major things the major thing in my borderline is trust. But it's very strange on how my trust goes, but it does make sense in a way. Most borderlines don't trust people straight away. I trust people straight away. But the more I get to know them and they get closer to me, the less the trust goes. And that's probably because of my parents, because the people that I wanted to trust let me down, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
no, that makes a lot of sense because when not having someone to trust to, our parents are supposed to be the ones that we trust first and foremost. And when we don't have those figures in our life as kids, and um, we we're looking for that replacement, and when we're looking for that replacement, there it allows us to we'll search anywhere, and we'll latch on to anyone who will give us that trust. And I venture to guess that that's probably why the abuse you suffered, which first and foremost, let me just empathize with you. That's horrible stuff, especially at such a young age. And when those that you try to trust, and then they destroy it in such a horrible manner, um, there's hardly any recovering from that, I can imagine. So,
Well, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is I'm not angry at anyone. I've always been a believer that pain changes people for the better. Because you see like things that happen in people's lives and they suffer tragedy and it changes them. They're more open and more into mentorship and stuff like this because it's like a learning thing. So I've taken my pain and I've learned from it and I've made myself a better person. I don't blame anyone. When it comes to borderline, I don't want to be fixed because especially with the how we love deep and we feel deeper than other people, I think with a little bit more understanding would be fine. All I
Well,
want to be heard, yeah.
yeah, wanting to be heard. I Yeah, I heard and seen. I can imagine, and especially since you were never, or you felt like you weren't heard and seen as a child. Uh,
Yeah.
um, but I just want to say I'm just kind of beside myself because that whole experience growing up, your siblings not seeing you, your siblings not being there for you, your parents obviously weren't. They were in and out of your life more or less. Um, but like I was saying, it's interesting how you go from just wanting you'll trust anyone right off the bat until all of a sudden do you do you give them the opportunity to prove that you can't trust them, or you just over time start feeling like, oh, I
It's
did it
just like
again?
when I get closer to them, because I felt that I suppose as a child, you feel that you need to be close to your parents. So anyone that gets closer to me, the trust goes. Put it this way, I only have one person in my life that I probably trust, let's say 95%, who's my ex-partner, who I live with and been living with like 10 years. He basically gave me access to everything. So I can, not that I do it now because I don't need to, but I'd have access to his emails, his bank accounts, everything. So nothing was ever hidden from me. Because the only time, as I said, I saw my mother was only in mania. I couldn't trust anything that was going on because all that she was, well, at that time I thought it was normal. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's how you thought people behaved. You know,
Yeah,
we
and
we
yeah,
we grow. I remember as a child, um, it seemed like all my friends, their parents were divorced, so I couldn't figure out why my parents were divorced. I thought that's just something that happened. That there comes a point where you you get weekends with dad, and you live with mom, and thankfully, my parents they were married for 55 years. My mother passed shortly after their 55th anniversary. Um, and they made it work. So as you were growing up like that, and that's what you were seeing when you were going out into the world, and you were in your going to school and associating with other kids that were outside of your world. Did you see that as like a safety, or how did you
Oh,
view
no,
that?
no, 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 not at all. Where I went to school was pretty local, so kids lived next door. My mother was this bad that she would go outside naked, run up trees, um, yeah, do really, really weird things. There was one stage she ran in the backyard with a clown mask on, running around with a knife. That's how bad my mum was. So at school, I got picked on. I got picked on quite a lot. Your mother's crazy, but your mother's crazy. But I did actually have something good to go back on. My mother had a love of Elvis Presley, and she used to wake us up in the middle of night on a school night, playing records in the garage, having your own party. So anybody would tease me, I said, "You didn't get to stay up last night. I got to listen to music all night." So I used that, but as soon as I could leave school, I was in Australia. You can, if your parents give you permission, you can leave school at 14 or 9 months. So I was out of there. School was
Man.
not a good place at all.
And how are the teachers and the school staff with what you were dealing with?
Oh, okay. My name, Dubois. In Australia, they tend to say Du Bois, the
Yeah.
uneducated people. And my legal name, I spell it Dene, but it's actually spelt like Dennis. I got from when I was knee high to a grasshopper. I also got teased saying Dennis likes Du Bois. So I had my mother, as well as being picked on that I was gay before I knew I was gay. So I had that. And these were like 8 and 9-year-olds that were saying that to me. It's like, where these kids get these sort of things from is unbelievable. So I had a horrible time at school. I wanted to learn. I used to wag and what we call, like, not go to school. We call that in Australia to wag school. And I'd go to the library.
And what kind of stuff would you learn in the library that maybe helped
Well,
you cope?
I can't remember. I just remember that that's what I'd done. I can't remember when I pictured, I can't remember being in the library. I just knew that's what I'd done because I didn't have friends to go to. I couldn't go home. So that was it's probably my safe place. But yeah, I don't actually remember what I'd done at the library. I just know I went there.
So we're going to fast forward. The fun thing about doing this, and we talked a little bit, this is still new for me, and I'm learning so much about like whole different people that coming from the bubble I come from, and coming from my background in law enforcement, I've seen troubled lives and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
and I know people have suffered, uh, and so it's so interesting trying to picture your bubble, picture what you unfortunately had to go through. Um, y- so you got out of school at 14, and did you work until you went to Sydney, or?
No, I was basically, I'd done some paper routes because I couldn't really. My first major job was actually my father was a chef in a hospital and I worked as a kitchen hand at the hospital he worked at.
So what was that like with your father in those settings?
It was okay. It was okay. We just didn't really have a good relationship anyway because as a child being left with my mother all the time while he was laying down drunk, he wasn't, I don't believe at that time, I think he was laying off the drink and his gambling got a bit better. I think my from what I have surmised from meeting my father before he passed away, I believe that he had borderline as well. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and I don't know, and I'm definitely not qualified to make these kind of things, but I wonder if that was kind of how he started coping with dealing with trying to be your mom's caretaker. and
Yeah.
obviously he wasn't a suitable caretaker. But so at what age did you leave your parents' home and go up to Sydney?
About 18, 19.
And what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, that experience, I was a social butterfly. I don't know where, because I'm nervous to go out, go out to gay venues and stuff. I'm I'm nervous around men. Give me a room from women, I'm great. I can talk, and this is actually, since podcasting, I've been more comfortable with men, which has been really interesting because yeah, it's something that um yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It just seems everything's coming to a place now. Like I said, I didn't never want to come back to Australia, but now I've learnt I can't go anywhere else at the moment. I have things to do before I need to make my place in the world before I move on anywhere else.
Tell me about that.
Well, okay, so I've been working on and off. When I came back to Australia, I was working jobs lasting a couple of months. I don't know why I ended up in dysfunctional places. I'll have, even put it this way, I had a place I was working at, a CEO rang me at 1 a.m. in the morning drunk. It's like, what places am I working for? And it just seemed I kept on getting into these places. So I ended up about...
If I can interrupt, do you mind helping myself and the audience, especially those in the States, understand what a CAO is?
CEO.
CEO. Okay.
Yes,
I got you.
it must be my accent.
Yeah. In fact, off topic a little bit, I was just thinking I'm going to have like the American to Australian trans subtitles going on underneath, because some of it I'm catching, some of it I'm trying to figure out as I go. But yeah, it's fun for me and stuff. So go ahead. You had a CEO call you at like 1 a.m.
Yeah, 1 a.m, just going on about stuff, and it's like, yeah, I just kept on attracting those jobs. So of course the trust went. So the last job that I was in was probably now 3 years ago. It actually ended up in a discrimination case. And I never worked again after that. But basically it was my dream job. I was helping people with disabilities get employment. And yeah, it just ended up in a discrimination case due to the legal requirements that were mentioned afterwards. I can't really say much more than that.
No, of course.
Yeah, so I went into a bit of, as I said, I really don't get depressed, but I sort of went in a sad for me phase and really didn't do anything, just watch television at home. Then I decided I was going to go on Facebook and have a look at borderline personality disorder groups and try to gather some connection. And I noticed something. I was watching people chat, and there were people who would put up stories and then people would attack them. And I'm thinking, hang on, this is a support group. And so I thought about it. I was thinking, okay, so these people are saying stuff that are triggering something in their trauma and creating a reaction online. So these people that were speaking up before are now being silenced because they're scared to speak up. So now I'm going to go back. About 10 years ago, I visited a shop in New York called the Strangers Project. Amazing. I basically walked out of that shop. My face was wet from tears. So it was have you ever heard of the Strangers Project?
No, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, so it's actually a shop just with letters on the wall. So letters that of lost love, of thanks, of gratitude, everything. So basically, they're not going to the recipient anymore. The general public are reading them. So you can imagine how powerful that is. So I didn't even think that would lead to now. And then I thought, hang on, borderline is probably one of the most misunderstood things, and it causes people to not say anything, because I notice in the groups, people are calling themselves the names that the general public are calling them. Like they're crazy, they're uncaring, they're unlovable. So many things. Like in Australia, you can go to a psychologist and tell them you're borderline. We can't help you. You need to find someone else. That's how bad it is. So I thought, what a great book idea to have those people to have their say in a book format so they're not being attacked. And it has been incredible. So I started this basically 5 weeks ago. I looked at my statistics on Facebook a couple of nights ago. In 28 days, I've had 23,000 viewers on my page. I've now got 370 followers. I've got probably 160 pages in a book so far. And I've been approached by Force magazine, which is in 13 countries. They're going to do an article in August on it. It's just blown my mind. But also with my trust issues, even though I see it, I need to hold it, if it makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. You see it, but you're still you don't believe it, or I'm sure you kind of feel like the bottom's going to fall out at any second.
Yeah, because even the other day, I had someone come onto my page and to rate my page and telling me that I've stolen things. I'm thinking, hang on, I haven't stolen anything, because I use a lot of AI. You can't, if I get the colors off AI, you can't say I stole your colors. And people were saying that I use their nut. No. So that was only a couple of days ago, and I had to do the block. But it still sits in the back of my mind, have I done something wrong? But I know I haven't. I don't know where I've got this from, but I have so much insight that has kept me surviving. So all my life, I've just survived. Now with this, I get up in the morning, I check my computer, I'm alive. Where's the next letter? Give me. And so many people are saying, thanks, we needed this. So I reckon it's going to make a big change. But the only problem is, and once I get into the Force magazine, I need to get into Australian media, because Australia just doesn't seem to want to know. In the group, 2% are Australians, and I haven't had one letter from an Australian.
What you were talking about the Strangers Project that you went to, and that kind of helped open you up to doing this.
Yep.
If I understand that correctly.
Yep.
As you're seeing these letters come into you, that you're putting in book form, are there common threads that you're seeing weave throughout them?
Yeah, basically people just want to be heard. A lot of pain. So just so you are aware, this book is raw, unfiltered. So I'll be honest with you, I even have a suicide letter in there. But it is so powerful. And these people are just thanking me every day. They're just saying, thank you. I wanted to get this out there, but I was scared of the backlash of it. So these people can do it. They can either put their name, they can put anonymous, doesn't matter. They're just having that opportunity to speak.
Speak and not be judged for.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of like you were explaining about when you try to talking to your siblings about the abuse you suffered, and they're like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
You don't remember that. And I'm sure that was probably a theme throughout your whole life, if I could generalize like that as you were suffering this mania and stuff as a child, you didn't have anyone giving you reassuring feedback coming back to you. So you're watching your mom in her mania. And then if you tried to express that to a teacher or someone in your life, a family member or something, you didn't get that reassurance, that voice hearing you back saying, "I hear you. I'm here for you. I understand how this is hard."
Yeah. Because basically with borderline, all it is when we are triggered by something, our child comes forward. So it's like when you're dealing with someone with borderline, the best thing I say to do is think of them as they're a child, but talk to them like an adult. Because so many people talk about borderline with people that aren't borderline. Like I had nothing against therapists, but I have been in and out of therapy. I'm 58 years old. I think the first therapist I saw was when I was 20. And though I'm sure I picked up some coping skills through it, I'm learning more from speaking to people with lived experience. And they're telling me exactly the same. Because I don't think that therapists are at the point that they actually really understand borderline. And I'm not talking about borderline with people that have bipolar and all the other things on top of it. Yes, I understand that's a bit more complex, but straight borderline, I don't think they know what they're doing really, to be honest. That's my opinion. I'm sure it's some therapy has worked with other people, but in saying that, with my major trust issues, I don't trust that these people are going to help as soon as I walk in.
Yeah. What kind of feedback are you getting? Not now, but when you would go into a therapist and try to explain that to them, uh, how what kind of feedback were you getting, and what were you wanting?
They were sort of trying, they understood because of my trust issues, but they just, excuse me, I didn't realize that was pulled up. Yeah. It just got to sorry, it got to the point where I would just end up moving to the next therapist because it just seemed that they were talking about the same thing over and over and over again, and it just wasn't hitting home with me. It just didn't seem like, and also with me, and I don't know whether that's borderline because I haven't spoken to anyone that has that. I want the quick fix. I'll be honest, I'm lazy. I don't want to put in but it's interesting in saying that I'm lazy. And I say to my therapist, I said, so does that mean I don't want help? And they're saying, no, it doesn't mean that at all because you're showing up every time. You obviously want help. So it's like, it's very contradictory in my head. It's like I'm saying, I'm coming here, but I'm not getting the help. Yeah, it's confusing.
Well, I'll challenge you with this, that I think that wanting that instant, that quick fix, that's the world we live in now. We've got medications to fix everything quickly, and sometimes they're a benefit and sometimes they're a hindrance to us, being on some of those medications. And when you're dealing with mental health issues, we want medication to make us, and I say medication, I don't necessarily mean a pill, but we want to be fixed quickly. We don't want to live like we have been living for 58 years in your case. We
Yeah.
want to feel better. We want to feel validated, and we want to feel heard. And when that's not coming quickly, especially in our what I call our Amazon internet world, right? We get on the internet, we get the answers we've been searching for a long time. You talked about going to the library. You're only a slightly few years older than me, so we grew up in the library when we were doing the Dewey Decimal System to find books, and having to research answers. But now you can hop on Google, you can hop on Chat GPT or whatever, and get it all right now. You can go onto Amazon, and I had to get a new keyboard for my computer. The one I had wasn't working, and I got it overnight. And sometimes, and my wife and I, we joke about this, that you know, what do you mean I have to wait 24 hours? This should be able to be dropped off to me now.
Yeah.
And whereas when we grew up, remember, like, we had to, if we wanted something, you had to like send the postage in for it, and then wait 4 to 6 weeks for it to show up. And
Yeah.
and sometimes with mental health, I think that that's what we want. And what do you mean I can't be fixed right now? And so you go into doctors and you're trying to get that, and it's not there. And so I don't know if lazy is the right word to put it. It's just, when you've dealt with something the same way your whole life, and you start developing those trust issues, and I think at a point, maybe a lack of trust in yourself, like, this isn't working for me. I'm broken. I'm the one who's not doing it. I'm the one who can't get it. I'm failing somewhere, but there's still that desire to keep putting the work in to get better, to heal. Um, and we're called the mentor sessions here. And I like to discuss and find those people that were there for us, as that have helped teach us and coach us and push us along the way. And it sounds like for you, that space was never filled, and you had to, it's like you said, you had to self-soothe, you had to self-cope. And, I'm sure, uh, you have a lot of, I'll just call them, imaginary personalities, for lack of a better way to put it, that have, people inside your head that have trying to fill those void, uh, for you, and help give you that. But now you're at a space where you're understanding who you are, and you're more comfortable with who you are. You said something earlier that, like, when you brought up your sexuality, you had a hard time, like, even coping, or not coping, accepting that you were gay. And I find it uh, fascinating that, uh, and I wish I had the training experience to do this. Um, you had this, you want that love and affection, and for you, that attraction's to men, but yet you don't trust men. You're not comfortable
I
around
know.
men.
It sucks. It sucks, man. It sucks.
You
So,
know?
like, because with the way I think, I do worry and I do listen to what the general public say about things. So I tend to go towards that, because that's like, with my family, we never associated with the outside of the family. Like, our family was just a one unit. My auntie didn't come around. Friends didn't come around. They didn't want to know my mother. But my mother and father basically only had two friends. That was it. That was it.
And I would I be fair in suspecting that those friends were also dealing with their own issues and their own psychoses, if
No,
you will?
no. Well, no. I actually don't. This was someone that my father met when he was chefing, and they'd been friends ever since. They actually ended up becoming Mormons. They actually live in New Zealand now, and had like 14, 15 kids. No, they didn't have any issues at all. I know. They were actually on a TV program in New Zealand about the size of their family.
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
sounds like they probably could have used some cable TV or something, give them a distraction. But,
Yeah.
um um now you're in this space where, and this goes back to the theme of our show, the mentor sessions. eh, When have you felt yourself taking on a role as a mentor, as someone who's can help those that struggle with the things you struggle with
Yeah.
accept who they are, and basically learn how to love themselves for what they're going through?
Yes, because I I want them to take the labels that they're putting on themselves. They're not that's not them. It's not them. You're just taking that from other people, and I'm so aware of that because I've done it myself. But I'm learning. I believe that some of the traits with borderline, especially the feeling so hard about things and loving so much and so much empathy, that's a superpower. If you have understanding from the other person, that's a superpower. You shouldn't feel ashamed. I actually, apart from the trust issues, yes, I'd like them to go away. I don't think they will ever do that. They will probably lessen, but I don't want to lose my borderline. Not at all. I don't want to be fixed.
Tell me what that looks like when you're talking to someone, because communication's so vast nowadays. What does that look like when you're trying to explain this to them?
What explain? I tell them, I say, so when you've been in a relationship, trying to think of a way to explain it. It's just, I think the best way that I do it is through storytelling. I let them just blurt it all out. And then I go back to them and I say, how did you feel in this situation? And what I found in most situations, it was because of their trauma. And I'm trying to teach them it's not your fault that you're affected by something that someone says. Because people tend to, though we have to have accountability for what we do, we don't have to hate ourselves for what we do because we can't control it. With borderline, if you're affected by something like a particular word or an action that someone's done that's from your trauma, it's like, when they put a hammer on your knee to check your reflexes. That's how automatic it is. So why hate yourself for that? You can't control that. Unless you're going to hold your knee down while they're pressing it. But yeah, it's like, yeah. So that's what I try and teach people. You're not in control of it. Yes, there are consequences for your actions, but don't put yourself down because you're getting affected by your past trauma.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Their reflexes to the trauma, and I think sometimes it's hard when you're on the receiving end of that reflex to remember that the person you're dealing with is not trying to respond that way. They're responding that way because of the feedback that they got. And I can imagine for you, that had to have been very hard, as you were on, for lack of a better way to put it, your journey of self-discovery, trying to find out who you are, you know, going to Canada, getting in relationships and trying these new jobs. You had this experience growing up where you were trying to learn how to trust someone and trying to learn how to uh, map people out and basically like survive in the world. Um, but certain things, certain behaviors were just, they would spin that reflex out of you, and then trying to manage, like you said, you can't change what they're going to say. You can't change what they're going to do, but you can, learning how to react and respond in an appropriate manner, I think is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, because that's why I said about think of it like it's a child. Because some of the reactions an adult will give to an adult, you wouldn't necessarily give to a child. That's why
Yeah.
I'm saying think of it as a child, but talk to them like they're an adult. Because if you're talking to like a child, you're only going to aggravate the situation. But if you talk to them like an angry adult, you're going to aggravate the situation, if that makes sense.
So talk to people, and this is just a basic human understanding for me. If you'd like, talk to them with the compassion of an adult.
Yes.
Not being empathetic and not demeaning towards them and understanding where they're coming from. God, I have so many questions. I'm just trying to figure out which
That's
one.
okay.
You know, you talked about relationships in your life and how you had a hard time coming to relationships and being in them. Was there anyone in your life as you were trying to build a relationship with them and a relationship of trust, if you will, that finally you started hearing what they were saying? Does that make sense?
Uh, apart from one person, um, all the other relationships were not right for me. Very toxic. The only person, and that was when I ended up in New Zealand, I met someone, and that's when the trust went really bad because after we fell in love, perfect relationship. Yeah, real like Cheech and Chong. It was amazing. But unfortunately, shortly before I met him, he had a world trip planned 6 months later. And as soon as he left, I felt abandoned. So I was messaging him constantly, 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 constantly. And it just ruined it. Totally ruined it. And that's the only relationship that I actually miss. And it's really funny. He's lived in New Zealand and he's actually moved to Australia, and though he talks to me and we've hugged and said hello, we've never closed a door. One of the other things with me with communication, I can't have open doors. Like text messages. If you send me a text message and in the middle of it you just stop in mid conversation, I go straight to, oh, you've abandoned me. Oh, you hate me. That's how my brain automatically goes. So I say to people, if we're having a conversation, and I think it's just common courtesy, oh, I'm busy, I'll come back later. I get that all the time and it just sends my brain into, I'm being abandoned, I'm being abandoned, I'm being abandoned.
Yeah, I I can imagine how hard that is for you. You know, that I look at it as the beauty of a text conversation is you can be talking, yeah, and then all of a sudden you get busy and you set the phone down and walk away. But there are times that I've been in conversations with people that I'm like, I never looked at it like open door, closed door, because that's a beautiful analogy that, hey, this conversation's done for now. I just look at it like, oh, it must be done, you know. But then there's sometimes, and I like to tell this humorous anecdote about that, where my wife and I were in a very serious disagreement, and I'm the kind of person that if we're in a disagreement, I have to make sure you understand I'm right, blah blah blah. And
One of them, I get you.
yeah, and man, I had the closer. I had the closer. I was done, and I hadn't heard from her for hours. And I'm like, oh, she's got nothing to say. She's got nothing to come back to with that. I want it. And then I finally got a text from her, and I opened it up, and that huge, probably 3 or 4 paragraph closer I had written, I never hit send. So, but by that point, that whole issue had gone. You know, and so that's why sometimes it's important to give it time to walk away, to let it just settle and move on, especially when, you know, in our case, we were debating something with the kids. I'm sure she was venting about something that the teenagers had done, that whatever we were disagreeing about at that time had finally taken a back seat. You know, it didn't matter anymore. So yeah, tell me about the book and what's going on with the book and things that you've learned about yourself writing this.
Well, I do actually have I did publish a book. And it was basic. So I've always wanted to be a writer because I knew I had a story in me. Yeah, there's so many things I haven't told you, that happened to me throughout the years. So it was actually in one of my splitting phases, someone upset me, and I ended up going onto my chat GPT and just told them the whole story of my life. And because I'm not a good typer, and throughout the time I was doing it, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get this done. And part of my brain was going, Denis, you're cheating. You're cheating. This isn't a book. This isn't a book. This isn't a book. And my chat GPT kept on saying to me, but hang on, I can't make up the story for you. This is your story. I'm just helping you form it. So I'm looking at why he's doing it and going, no, I don't speak like that. I don't speak like that. So it probably took more than 8 hours of me swearing at the computer and stuff. So I wrote a book basically called The Places I Didn't Belong. So that was the fact that I didn't belong in Canada. I didn't belong in New Zealand. I belonged straight back here. I wasn't ready for those travels, even though I learned stuff from it. And I was probably meant to do that, as I call running away from my problems, to come back to realize I'm now where I need to belong.
Well, to me, I kind of do stuff like that with Chat GPT. And I look at it as like a way of journaling
Yeah.
to flesh out the thoughts I'm trying to get out. One of my favorite things to do is I like to end the day with a pour of bourbon and a cigar. And I like to journal it that way and write down what I'm experiencing and getting the feedback back, because sometimes that's the nice thing about some sort of like electronic artificial intelligence journaling is you're getting that feedback response, helping you understand what's going on. So, and it's interesting that you talked about the places you didn't belong and how you didn't belong in Canada and New Zealand. Um, but, and that you were running away from your problems. And I guess I'd agree that that's probably true, but they also gave you a chance to separate from them
Yeah.
enough to look back in. And does that make sense? Like,
Yes, it does. It does, because I'm in the process of going to take a bit longer, and I'm going to do another book. And
so
it's going to go like, did I belong?
yeah, because I think that's a great follow up to it, because
Yeah.
I think sometimes we get, especially when we're in our troubles and when we're in our feelings, if you will. That's how my kids put it all the time when they're talking to my grandkids. It's kind of cute. When we're in those, we don't have the opportunity to step back, especially when we have a tendency to feel so big. And you, some of the things you talk about, I have to admit, I kind of I look at it and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like that too. I get big feelings and I'm kind of the reverse though. It takes a lot for me to trust people. And then once I do give them that trust and it's broken, man, that's what kills me, is when that trust is broken. Because I've invested so much in opening up and letting you trust, giving you that trust, um, and it's very, very complex that way. But when you're able to pull yourself out, and the only way I could describe it uh, is to have that out of body experience. When people are having out of body experiences and they talk about seeing themselves on the gurney and the doctors around them working and they're seeing everything going on around them. It's like that. When you're able to pull yourself out of that moment and look around you and see what's going on around you, or what was going on around you, it allows you to recognize, oh, hey, I do belong, and I can go back there, and I do have a spot in that world. I do have safety there. What were some of the things that made you finally decide that you do belong in Australia?
Because this is the first time that I've found meaning. So when you say that and about being where I belong, I could have technically done this anywhere because it's on a computer. So it's like, but so yeah, that's the reason I'm doing the other one. Because I used to have a blog called Contradictory because my thoughts contradict each other all the time. And when I hear something or something happens, something else will come in and I'll add on to the idea. My brain is constantly going, constantly. I've always got thoughts. And I don't know whether you've heard, I don't know whether they use that term over there, their earwig.
Yeah.
I have a song in my 24/7, doesn't go away.
So just an aside here, for me, the last couple of days, it's been, I saw her standing there by the Beatles, and no matter what I've tried to do to get that earwig out, I woke up singing it this morning, and and it's a great song. It's a nice bop to it, but I'm like, I'm ready for a new radio station in my head. But yeah. You get that earwig.
I tried to do it in different songs, but then the same tune happens. It's like, oh my God, I'm changing music.
Yeah. And so, but it's funny how you said you found your meaning, going home, you have your meaning. And you needed to go home. Do you think that in a way is to reconcile for not knowing your meaning for all these years?
I just think for the first time in 58 years, I'm actually being heard. So because my mind thinks of, excuse the French, how the fuck do I have all this empathy and caring for people? Where did it come from? And I'm just going to go back a little while, right back to my childhood, because when I said that before my father died of dementia, we were talking about things. I was staying at his house overnight, and I was saying, I don't understand where this has all come from. And he said to me, when you were 5 years old, you used to dress up as Santa and you sat on the front porch and the local kids would come around and you'd sit them on your lap and you'd have little gifts wrapped up for them. Like, where did that come from? I don't understand. It's like, and I think the way I've survived, I'm starting to live now, is because I have all this insight. Like, I've been through all this pain. I don't get ill. I haven't had a headache for like 30 odd years. I eat terrible. And it just does not, up until about 6 months ago, every night was a nightmare for me. I had a nightmare every single night. I would only sleep 5 hours a night. And I don't know why I still look this good, but anyway. If you can't blow your own trumpet, who else can? Anyway.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I don't, like, I told you before that I find it difficult to believe in God. I do believe there's a higher power, and I believe something is guiding me, but because of my trust issues, I will never trust it. Though, in saying that, I am absolutely terrified of death, and when I think about it, I sometimes look up and I say, please forgive me for not believing in you. I don't want to go to hell. So I worry about the things that I've done bad in my life, but I can't trust enough to take it on. And I never will. Maybe on my deathbed it will happen, but it's just so many things I've never gone without. And there would have been certain situations that I should have gone without. I do panic when I think I'm going to go without. And when I stop panicking, everything falls on my lap, just like it comes to me.
I wonder if it's that when you're able to slow down and stop panicking, those things, maybe if it's finances, maybe it's food, maybe it's finding a person, or whatever it is that you're panicking about, that was always there. But when we're in a moment of panic and anxiety, we can't see that it's right there in front of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd see that in life and helping people when I was in law enforcement. The stuff they're panicking about, it's like, hey buddy, we've got medical assistance right here. Like, you're okay. Give us a moment. We're helping you. You might still be in physical pain right now, or that adrenaline dump is causing some issues, but you're okay. But they can't, again, it's that they're so focused on what's right in front of them that they can't see what's going on around them. And I've seen that in my own life too. And that's why I'm very blessed to be who I am and have what I have. And that's not to say that people aren't blessed, but I have an amazing wife that when I start panicking over little things, or vice versa, there's that person right there to say, okay, now here it is right here. And help us pull back and zoom out. Unfortunately, in your life, that person was just you. You didn't have that person. And I think that's why it's important for you and I to have this conversation now on this in this format, is to help people see that we have to have that connection with people. But before we can have that connection with people, we've got to learn how to have that connection within ourselves. You're now learning to connect with people outside, through your writings, through your social media, which we'll get to here shortly. But it's only because now at 58, you're starting to find connection within yourself. Like a theme that I was so amazed by during this conversation is like, I don't want to be fixed. I like who I am now. How long did it take you to be able to say that about yourself, that like, hey, I like who I am?
50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't say, I don't know whether, hoping it comes. I don't think I love myself. I like who I am. I like the goodness in me. I don't think any part of me is bad, actually. When I think of it, I don't think any part of me is bad anymore. I used to think that, but no.
Yeah. And that's what's important, is that, and that goes to my message and my theme about mentors. You are getting to a place where now you get to share that message with people and help people who have gone through the trauma that you have, who grew up in homes without stability, their parents and stuff like that. I recently was talking to a person who grew up on Skid Row in Los Angeles. Well, she didn't grow up there. She grew up in a nice home. She grew up in a family, and then she ended up on Skid Row. But now she's giving back to that community. Amazing story. But it took her to be able to find the confidence in herself to learn how to navigate the bureaucracy of housing stability and going into school and learning those kind of things. to where she can give back to that, right? Where you yourself, now that you're finding that comfort and that acceptance of your personality disorders and your trauma, and I had, doing some trauma work myself and working, I finally had a doctor that said, you're not going to get past this. It's going to be okay, and those things that happen to you, they happen to you. But when you can accept them and that it's just part of who Danae is, who Mike is, then we're able to help people learn that this stuff that happened to you, it's part of the journey, and it's those lessons now that, and this goes to where I think we have that duty and that responsibility to pass those messages and sharing and comfort on with the next person. I'll tell you myself, Danae, I learned so much about myself listening to you today, and the way I've handled the traumas, and you've said things, and I'm like, yeah, I do that too. you know, you know, oh yeah, yeah, like you, I'm a very empathetic person, and you were talking about dressing up like Santa as a child. I didn't do that per se, but I wanted that childhood acceptance from my peers, and
Yeah.
we looked to it any way we could to just have someone say, someone hold you and love you and be there for you. And when that, we feel like that's missing and we carry that pain into our adulthood, it makes our relationships hard. So I commend you on everything you've done to get to where you are, and the healing and compassion you show for people. Where can the audience find you and learn more about this and learn more about the messages you're sharing?
Okay, so you can find me on you can find my website, bpdraw.com. Also on Facebook, BPD Raw. Just search for it's not actually a group, it's a page. I believe there's something similar, but yeah, you'll see my purple and black circle around BPD Raw. Real Unfiltered Human is underneath it. My book is available, my Places I Didn't Belong is available on Amazon, and a new book should be out by the end of the year. Yeah.
Great. And we're going to post links to all that stuff in the description. So that way people can click on that and get that out and stuff. But Danae, I really appreciate you spending the time with us today and sharing your message and feelings. And like I said, I know where I'm waking up in the world, and the world is waking up here in Boise, Idaho, in the United States. The world is going to bed for you. So I'm going to let you go that way. And have an enjoyable evening, and I can't wait to talk to you again and hear more about
Cool.
what's going on with you. I really appreciated this time that we spent. So
No problem. Same here, Mike. Or should I say Big Mike?
Big Mike, yeah.
Big Mike.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to. I'm not good with the kilograms. I think I'm somewhere just maybe about 120 kilos or so. But yeah, I'm 6'4", and I am a big guy, but it takes, my wife likes to remind me that it takes a big guy to carry the big heart that I have in me. So
There you go.
yeah.
There you go.
All right, Danae, I appreciate it. And everybody, thanks for listening. Please go find Danae and hear the message he's sharing.
We'll fix Mike up there, Danae. I don't say that's how Danae sounds like I'm a creamy yogurt.
Gosh. Danae.
Don't worry, I don't know why. People always say Danae, and it doesn't even look like Danae.
Yeah,
but
you know what it is? It's because you said it was French, and so to me, the French E has an A sound. So Denis.
Yeah, well, if
Everybody
I had it up in Venice, you'd get it, but that's okay. Look, I don't mind.
Yeah,
just don't call me late for dinner.
Well, yeah. Same. Yeah, everybody go out there and find Denis and find his message and learn from him and learn his message and help those that are probably in the same situation and have a little more love and compassion for him. So Denis, I appreciate your time, sir.
No problem, Big Mike. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.